Our first talk is from Traficom. From Juhani, are you? Do you want to?
Yeah, it's the second one from the top. Oh, thanks a lot. Hi, I'm Jussi. I'm from the National Cybersecurity Center at Traficom. And I was invited to talk about, well, any subject of my choosing. So I thought that maybe you'd like to hear about our problem, which is trying to clean the Finnish networks. So we would prefer that the Finnish IP networks are, well, any communication networks in Finland are well-functioning and safe and secure for everyone. So that's basically one of the basic things. If you don't know about NCSC, well, we are the teleregulator, but I'm not from the regulation side, I'm from the cert side of things. So basically, we are the one-stop shop for Finnish IT security or internet security, network security, what have you. And for the purposes of trying to keep the country clean, trying to keep the networks clean, we've had a project called Autoreporter, which is, I've heard later discovered, not a very good name. The Brits have a similar system, and they called it the National Takedown Service. Now that's saying something. So a National Takedown Service, okay, it's a national thing. It spans the entire nation. Takedown, okay, it's about takedown. So what it means basically is that we get data from trustworthy third parties. This is the part where I get to say praise to our contributors such as Telia and Shadow Server. Great job. And based on the information that we receive about badness in Finnish networks, we send complaints to ISPs. Many of you are very familiar with this, but I'll go through it anyway. And because of the regulation that we have, ISPs are actually required to talk to their customers and, if need be, take down the hosts if they don't get any better from that. So this is something that we've been doing from 2005, because we changed systems mid-2009. The statistics there only go that far, but trust me, it was there before that. And I think the general opinion on this project is that it's been largely a success. So we get good data in, mostly good data, send reports about things like botnets and phishing sites and malware being served in Finland, and it gets taken care of. Yay! So problem solved there, right? Well, I could actually say a couple of other things. The other data that we have that it actually is something that needs to be there is that whenever the system is not working, I didn't find a suitable statistic for you for the purposes of this presentation, but you'll have to trust me on this one that all the graphs go up whenever we have a maintenance break. So when routine things are not taken care of, badness tends to accumulate. So there you have it. So now to the part where, while this is a great thing, I think we could do better. Among the data that we do get is a lot of there is a lot of stuff that it's not connected to active badness happening right now. And currently we haven't figured out what to do with this information under the current cooperation and legislation and so on. And I hope that you would have some ideas. So please, you can interrupt me and come and ask me questions later. I won't be joining you for the sauna, sorry, but I'll be here throughout the day. So if you look at the data, the numbers are too small, but you can see that this is some random 4-hour period of data that we had when I was preparing the slides. You can see that we had 122,565 notifications about botnets or bots in Finland. That might sound like a large figure, but it depends on the data source that what we actually get. So sometimes it's like whenever a bot does an HTTP GET somewhere, that's a one there. So it might not be the amount of bots, but the amount of reports. And then the CNCs, brute forces, scanners, and malware URLs, and so on. But if you look at the figures related to on the top right-hand corner, related to things like open services and vulnerable services that we get, those are pretty much the same caliber of data. So we have roughly the same amount of open/vulnerable services being reported to us as botnets. So that's kind of like a lot of data. And if you look at what those are, it's a mixed bag. So you can see that you have things that are very worrisome, such as exposed Samba, exposed ransomware delivery protocol, RDP, exposed telnet. There's a lot of things that aren't as worrisome. So you have some poodles, mixed bag of SSL vulnerabilities, which is not worrisome in itself, but is indicative that you have some pretty old stuff there that might be a cause for concern in other terms. And the lower right-hand corner just is kind of like our pulse. It shows that when do we get the data. So the basic things why this is a problem is of course related to DDoS amplification. So one of the things is related to that. So the basic protection everyone, at least in Finland, I think everywhere does, is that whenever faced with a DDoS, the first thing to do is to shut off the borders. Don't accept any incoming connections from outside Finland if you are somebody that serves mostly Finnish customers. And it might make sense in many cases, but if you look at, for example, this is pretty old by now, 2015, a list of different amplification factors related to protocols. I just took the data from the 4-hour period I showed you before and counted how much amplification you would get from the open services within Finland. And well, the numbers are there, I won't read them back to you. So even if you would close off the borders from outside Finland and somebody wanted to do badness towards your service, this would be a pretty easy way to do it. So with roughly 30,000 bytes, you could get 8 million bytes towards those services, and that's pretty bad. I would, of course, prefer it also that we wouldn't be such an easy source to use in DDoS attacks outside the country. And of course, there's a lot of vulnerable services as well, and that's pretty obvious. As I said about RDP, one of the most usual ways nowadays that companies get compromised is that somebody has a bad password and they have an RDP service open somewhere. And well, that's pretty much what it takes. But you also have some pretty worrisome stuff. I just pointed out some of these. So you have ESX servers, ESXi servers, iDRACs, which is hardware management services that are open to the entire internet. And I can't really find any good reasons on why would anyone want that, but there they are anyway. So my question to you would be, we have the data, we do a lot of scanning also to look at different vulnerabilities. How could we make it so that this information here reached the users and they would realize that this is a problem and would act upon it to make these numbers smaller and make them less vulnerable to attacks from the internet. So you don't need to speak up right now. Come talk to me. I'd love to have some solutions in this space. I can tell you, I can spend the rest of the time talking about what we have done to this data. A small detour when I'm talking about Finnish networks. I'm talking about this. So basically, 240 ASN sounds like small. I thought it was more like 300. But anyway, it might be the figure might be old. 1,000 IP ranges. I think the 15 million IPs is roughly accurate. I had some errors there previously. So the thing we do with the Autoreporter service is that it gets compiled daily, sent via email. We have an API that's being used by some, and we hope to roll into the API front that everyone, the network owners, can themselves go pick up the data. But in our discussions that I've had actually at least in the past years have been that operators generally do understand that protecting their customers about imminent badness that is happening right now is something that they want to do and something that is based on the neglect of the system owners might not fall in the same category. So on those things, what we've done is trying to figure out who the customer is, trying to contact the customer directly. For example, when we looked at the Exchange vulnerability, I think it was 21 March, April, we looked at Shodan as an initial guesstimate on how many open and vulnerable Exchange servers are there in Finland. It was in the low hundreds. We sent emails to each of them via ISPs, had legally stating that you really need to contact the customer, and this is the text that you need to give the customer. And the figures started going down, but not at a good enough rate for the terrible situation that was ongoing. Everybody was exploiting these services. So at that point, we had like 5 to 7 people calling the owners, trying to figure out who the owner is, trying to call them, hey, you need to do this now. You need to take the service offline or patch it now, because everyone and their dog is installing backdoors on these systems and exploiting these systems. And that was manageable in this one situation, but that's not something that we have the resources to do on like 24/7, 365. We don't want to be there all the time. And one of the reasons is basically this. So how to figure out who is the owner of the data. The obvious things are who is in DNS. This third alternative is to try to look at the web page and see from the web page any logos, any texts of where the service is located. The basic problem with this is that the data is much of the data is crap. So here is a good example. So this is a /something network that is called VTKK asiakkaat. So what is VTKK? It's the state computer center, which was disbanded in '96, and it's still there in the WHOIS. So that's the kind of data that we are working with currently, trying to figure out who to contact. So I just wanted to raise this one example of why the current situation is as bad as it is, that we, on a year by year, we do scans related to building maintenance systems, factory systems found on the internet. We report them, nothing gets done. The figures stay the same. This needs to change. Any ideas? I'm depressed. Come talk to me.
Thank you, Jussi. It's very useful talk. Last call for any questions. We have a question. And as Raymond is using, please use the mic when you come up to ask questions. And name and affiliation, please.
Raymond Jetten, Eliza. This is a discussion that has been going on in the RIPE abuse working group for a long time.
Yeah.
And actually nobody knows what to do about it. The problem is the RIPE NCC is not the internet police, and we cannot force anyone to do anything. This block you mentioned is not even the RIPE NCC's. It's an old IANA stuff that has been kept to some organization, and the people who managed that at that time have left the company, and the bookkeeping is just not there. That is a serious problem, I agree with that. But the solution, we have to think about that, truly, true.
Yeah.
I don't have a solution for it, it's just that we have to give these examples, for example, to the abuse working group and say, okay, well, this is just a simple example, how do we fix this? And see if we can find something.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
I'd be happy to join.
Good, thank you.
And the thing that we obviously can do is to try to take the VMwares and all the obviously very bad stuff and do the 5 to 7 people calling for a week, but that's not really sustainable.
Thank you, Jussi.